Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review. And today I'm going to be doing our spoiler review of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 3. What a mouthful. The final season of Cobra Kai, which at the time this video is coming out, it has just been released onto Netflix. I am very, very fortunate. I've had screeners for the final few episodes, as has been the case with, I think, everything from Season 3 onwards. We've been very lucky with our coverage of this show across the last couple of years. In actual fact, getting into some channel politics, it was the very first thing we had press access for as a channel. So there's a bit of a sunset vibe going on with this. It's had some really great memories, and I know I'll get into my thoughts on the first parts of the season, but it's going to be an interesting one to talk about. I appreciate I'm not doing this one live. I'm really not going to get a chance over the weekend. I'm just going to straight away get out there. This is a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched the episodes yet, please come back later on. I don't want to ruin it for you. I will talk about some of the big moments from the final few episodes. I'll actually talk about some moments across other parts of the series. I know that I've done a lot of rambling, to put that as an understatement, on those episodes, but I will be talking about those, my thoughts on them, maybe how they look retrospectively with Part 3 now out, all that sort of stuff. Please do get involved. And I guess I can say this, even though the show is finished, the show is done, there's more Cobra Kai to come from a point of view, I guess you could put. Of course, we're going to get the Karate Kid film coming out at the end of May. We'll be covering that here on the channel. If we're lucky, we'll get early coverage. I cannot wait for that one. I'll be talking about maybe how the show bridges into that as well. But it's a bit of a weird one to talk about because we don't really get to talk about shows that come to an end. The last big one I remember doing was Game of Thrones, and we all know how that ended. Safe to say that Cobra Kai hit the ending a little bit better than Game of Thrones did. But just alongside that, before I get into even some of those things, if you want to follow us on social medias, maybe even just watching our Cobra Kai stuff, that's absolutely fine. We've got a lot more TV reviews on the channel. We've got a little playlist. It's got all the shows we've done in multiple seasons. There's new shows, old shows, everything in between. We've also got a lot of other things coming out. We're working on a big series. Some people, if you've seen a lot of videos, I'm wondering, why is George sat like this? Why is the camera that way, not facing the other part of the room? I'm experimenting. This is going to be a bit of a longer one. I want to sit down, not from a lazy perspective, but you can't see, but I've got my laptop here, so if I occasionally glance down, that's me looking at the screen, where I can have the cast list open, I can have episode numbers, things like that, but I'm not going to be just sat there looking down the whole time, but I'm trying to get a good balance going. When I do the normal standing up reviews, it's absolutely fine, but you get one shot, one chance, you don't get to look at notes, you don't get to look at information, so I'm trialing this because in the summer, I'm going to be doing a 7-episode series for something very unique, which I'll talk about in more detail. And that's very, very heavy. It's actually probably the most technical research I've ever done for a video. We haven't even got anywhere near it. I'm 3 parts and out of 7. So in the summer, there's going to be some big things. I'm just trying this as a stance, see how it works. Obviously, it matches up with when we're live, when we've got multiple people on. Maybe I'll do some more videos the normal way, but I just want to see how this goes. I do have a light dangling off the side of my desk, so if that collapses, if there is a cut, it's because this light has fallen on me. But I'm curious how this goes. It is very weird looking at the camera this high. But that's how we're going to play it. So, yes, let's start talking Cobra Kai Season 6. Now, if you've seen our other videos, there's a link in the description with all of our entire Cobra Kai history, I guess you can call it now. I really didn't enjoy parts 1 and 2. I very much enjoyed the show. I've loved the show, actually, if I'm honest. I've had some incredible memories. I've binged the first 3 seasons over Christmas once, like in the space of like 2 days. I really enjoyed Season 4. Season 5 I liked. Didn't enjoy it as much as Season 4, but Season 5 I was fine with. And then it was the big up that Season 6 is the finale. I will be straight up front. I hated the concept of 3 parts. I don't think it was needed. I know Netflix has this habit now of splitting everything into 2 parts. And I really get frustrated by that, but splitting this into 3, if I'm really honest, took the piss a little bit. It really did. And I actually think the show's come off worse for it. Now, my thoughts on Part 3, my initial one sentence is I absolutely loved Part 3. And I think Part 3 may have made Parts 1 and 2 a little bit better. But I've just got some issues with the fact that they've divvied this up across however many months it's been. Was it July Part 1 came out last year? And I think, not like, oh, there's not a conversation online, but the episodes have kind of just come out each time. There's not been much fanfare. I know there's been a gap between Season 5 and 6, but I think when you've established a setup for a show in terms of its streaming, its release, especially with the Netflix deal that came into play in Season 3, I think it's very peculiar to split it into 3 parts. And if anyone's made it through Parts 1 and 2 and not liked it, maybe the general audience might not come back for the finale, but I obviously did. And I loved the final part. And as I said, I think it's made some parts better. But then I've also got criticisms of that. Now, this is a spoiler review, so I'm really going to kickstart an overview statement. The death at the end of part 2 is probably one of the most ridiculous things this show has done. And I don't mind shows being ridiculous. I had some people that took it as like a bad word and moaned about it before. I'm all for like heightened, unrealistic dramas, the comedy type thing. At the end of the day, this is a show about karate. It very much makes fun of itself. It makes fun of karate as a whole, films, pop culture, everything. And it's always been fine with that. There's a great audience for that. But season 2 ended with someone becoming paralysed and then finding out they can walk again later on. But I just thought the ending of part 2 was really, really like just even for this show off point. Like Fast and Furious went to space, and that actually made sense for Fast and Furious to go to space. That was less extended than the Cobra Kai person getting killed at the last episode. But that being said, me criticising part 2, part 3. I absolutely loved, as I've said. I'm going to start talking into that now. There's 5 episodes. I'm not going to go for episode titles. As they've got screeners, I get different access. They say work in progress, but they're all completed. But obviously, with this being a part C, part 3, whatever some people want to call it, picking up where things left off in Barcelona, it doesn't really do so. We get a scene with kids being tortured, and then we're going straight off into 1 month later, and they're all back home doing what they can do, trying to brush it under the rug. There's no more karate, and this is Cobra Kai. It's a karate show. There's 5 episodes, so we know what's going to happen, and I don't mind that. But I just think it makes, at this point in time, the part 2 stuff feel more redundant. The trip to Barcelona felt more redundant. Bringing back obviously characters like Kreese. We've got Terry Silver, who's a big part in this, who gets to stay onto the villain, which I love for the end of the show. They don't introduce any new villains in this final part, which was something I was worried about. It very much continued where it had picked off, but it just felt like the events were pointless in the extension of the story. And it's kind of something that I've tossed and turned with today with this part 3, that when we get to the later parts of this part 3, some of the stuff from part 2 does work really well, particularly the dojo rivalries, the individuals within those dojos and their story arcs as well. Some of that came out really well. So I'm sat there slating part 2, but then thinking, okay, well, if you took part 2 out of it, you don't get the, I don't want to make a Bane Batman comparison, but the whole, they get the rematch. We get characters that get the rematch, and we get to see them double down on character intentions, or maybe some characters can have different arcs. I enjoyed that, and I just feel where I go with that is, it then to me makes season 5 look a bit naive. That could middle part of season 6 really have been more at the end of season 5? And then where this season could pick off and go to, I don't know. I'm just waffling. I'm not a writer, but it's how I felt, and this is my therapeutic process, is talking this out loud. So, part 3 structurally was much better than part 2. Part 1, I'll be completely honest, I forgot a lot of part 1. I know they were doing the Mr. Miyagi subplot, which was something they were teasing. Now, I thought that personally might end up being a big part of the film. We know that obviously he's going to be going to another country. We haven't seen any of the characters in the trailer. They very carefully revealed things about that. Now, I'd assume you get a new Karate Kid trailer in the next couple of weeks following the season ending. It would make sense. And even jumping far ahead, we know that obviously Sam is now in Japan. So in sense of story, there's a very logical reason that LaRusso was probably just visiting his daughter or a family holiday there to see her, and it will be like a sort of tip of the hat to characters who aren't going to have an important role, and then we're going to have other characters who are going to come into it. And I guess with this being a spoiler, I can also say there was no Jackie Chan in this. Some people thought that there's a chance Jackie Chan could pop up. It would have been an extreme stretch, but it would have been understandable, but I'm kind of glad they didn't. And where I'm going to sort of praise the show's ending, with this being a final season, knowing fundamentally that it nailed the final season, that the last 2 episodes where it took Cobra Kai back to its roots, as much as we liked the trip to Barcelona, as much as we had all these crazy tournaments, it always began and originated in the Valley in the 80s. So for it to come full circle, pull it back, I've got a lot of praise for that. The Terry Silver discussion that he is ill and it's his final goal was just to win this, it's all he's got left, he's going to be dead in a few months. Do whatever you want, blank check. You hire the staff, you hire the referees, you pick your locations, we just want the tournament to go ahead. It's cheap, but it works. And it worked really well for this, that we're able to, again, take it back to its roots. And this early on in the season, I guess, well, this late in the season, but early in part 3, it begs a really interesting question that what are they going to do? How are they going to bring it back to its roots? And then we get the really interesting dojo stuff. Again, the show is called Cobra Kai. So it should have returned to its roots with Cobra Kai as a dojo. And when you go back to season 1, it's Johnny Lawrence that works, that is Cobra Kai. It's not Terry Silver, it's not Kreese, it's Lawrence. It's where the show started, and rightfully, at this part, it's where the show ended. And where I'm sort of going to start really ramping up how much I loved this is not only did the show go back to its roots, but it really enhanced them. You know, I'm going to a bit all over the place. I'll go into more specific character arcs later, but even when we've got, you know, the typical, we've got flashbacks from the old films, we've got flashbacks from earlier seasons, seeing that come into play in fight choreography and like the final battle, I really enjoyed. And again, it benefits the show that we're going back to those earlier days. I'm not saying this is the show being aware that it's maybe gone on too long or other scenes haven't been good. I just think it's a case of let's go back to the very beginning. If we're ending the show, let's end it in the right way. And it absolutely did. And this is where I'm going to start talking about cast members. So I'm going to start with Johnny Lawrence. Again, the show starts and ends with him. William Zabka. Loved him in this. I'm sure everyone knows the sketch by now on How I Met Your Mother. But to get 6 seasons of this character, and I very much criticised the writing for his character in certain parts of this season and maybe season 5, where I felt like he didn't have as much to do, that the focus did go on to Daniel LaRusso a bit more. Obviously, he's the Karate Kid, but to me, Cobra Kai, it's William Zabka's show. And those final few episodes, he got to go back to Cobra Kai. He actually gets the dojo back. He gets some of his early starters back. They've got the uniform. They get to have the tournament at home in his original gear. It came full circle, and the show was so much better for coming full circle. It was the best possible way to end his character arc, to end several characters around him being in that original Cobra Kai outfit, the outfits that they've learned karate in, that they've been doing, and as ridiculous as it got, and as they became Miyagi-Do and they lost control, blah, blah, blah. It worked, and they did it in a unique way. That Kreese having his moment with Johnny Lawrence, probably one of the best emotional moments of the entire 6 seasons, if I'm honest. Johnny finally, you know, going for him, Kreese owning up to what he did. No redemption as such in that moment, but a great scene between 2 actors, and it feels believable, the story they had with one another. And again, it's these moments where I'm going back to early seasons and the older films thinking this show's nailed it. And I don't think some of the character development had been there for a while, and that's maybe why I'm more cynical, but knowing the show is ending always puts a different perspective on how you watch something. And seeing that this was probably the final interaction these 2 characters were going to have, I absolutely loved it. And the fact that we then get that as the entry point for him to retake his dojo to become Cobra Kai once more, it was perfect. That's exactly what it was. That's what it needed to be. And that's where the show has delivered with moments such as that every single character's arc was completed, whether it was the ending montage, whether it was in early episodes. We've got Daniel LaRusso as well. And we've always known in this series in particular, his character arc's been, did I know Mr. Miyagi or not? Did he do these terrible things? We get a great scene with his mother where we find out about the story of the pearl necklace, that Mr. Miyagi wanted it for Sam. And when the time was right, she'd have it. And it was his own relatives as well. A really great story. And then we find out that the reason why he'd committed those crimes was because he wanted to take the purse back that was took from him wrongly. And you get this moment of clarity. And again, that's the relief on LaRusso's character, fine. But the characters surrounding him, and then what it does with the Mr. Miyagi character once more is it sort of raises it up that he was this very good person. Now, I do have a criticism of Mr. Miyagi in this. We get CGI AI Mr. Miyagi again. I think it looked awful. Appreciate this time round they put shadows around it. They shot it at night to make it look like it's not him, but just reusing the same soundbite from the films a couple of times in the same scene is very noticeable. But I don't think the series needed this. It felt a bit much. Some people like that, some people won't. I know it's like the Ian Holm conversation in Alien. I just thought it looked ridiculous. It wasn't necessary. And the whole skeleton thing, yes, it's a great throwback to the 80s. We'd kind of done that in Series 1, but it was Daniel's moment of clarity. And again, it's fine. Like, he hasn't had as much to do in this season. I like the fact that his dojo didn't compete at the end again. They weren't there at the beginning, so they shouldn't really be there at the end, and we don't need another Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai to end a series. What they were able to do with some of the other characters, and Lewis Tan's one, is to just bring in, like, hey, these are just the outright villains now. They've got Terry Silver, they've got Lewis Tan, they've got 2 people who have been awful to other characters. Drago Jr., I'm going to keep calling him. the leg break moment on Robbie as well, ending the karate tournament. No soft, we beat them all in the semis to set up all of our own dojos in the final. I loved that. It felt like, not a villain as such, but he felt like the right threat for these kids. It was Drago Jr. He even had the haircut, the lack of speaking, the accent, but then playing up the Lewis Tan angle, which I thought was a great twist, that the two dojos draw, and that means the senseis must fight each other. I'm not going to look into logic, because technically it would have been Kreese fighting Lewis Tan if it wasn't, but I've really enjoyed that dynamic, that heading into that final episode, and I know I'm zigzagging, but I'm going to keep zigzagging, it's a spoiler review, heading into that final episode knowing that we're going to get John Lawrence in a karate match. You know, the Karate Kid, some people want to call him, fine, but we get these great moments where the kids have all had their character arcs now. They've all had their moments in the spotlight. Let's take it back once more to the root. Let's go back to his early days. Let's talk about him in the 80s when he was the champion, and this is his moment. And it's a really great episode to do so, and I loved that finale. I loved the last two episodes, if I'm honest. The last two episodes worked so well for me. And there wasn't too much karate, there wasn't too little. It was much better than early episodes in the show, which is great, because you want the best ones to be at the end of the show. That's how it should always be, and it really did work for that. I'm going to talk about Miguel as well and Samantha. We've got those two characters who are going on their separate journeys. Sam's going to Japan for university. Miguel's obviously got into finally to Stanford. And it's a weird one of this, because you forget they're meant to be under 18. And I know it's no one's fault about the writer's strike or the SAG strike. Obviously, the cast of teenagers, they grow out of it, and obviously doing it again in 2024, 2025, they've obviously all grown quite a bit. And I always look at the irony that Zolo Mariduena, who plays Miguel, the fact he did Blue Beetle, and his character in Blue Beetle was like immediately finished college. Yet he was still halfway filming like this show, which was before he was going to college, is kind of funny in a weird way. But again, I'm not going to take that too seriously. I'm not just going to be like end of show. I know Stranger Things has that complexion where it's like there's been like 5 seasons of Stranger Things in what will be like 12 years or something outrageous, and they've obviously all aged and grown up, but they're meant to be sort of like 15, 16 still. Millie Bobby Brown's married, isn't she? I don't know. Different conversation. That's for later on this year. I'm going to talk about Eli and Dimitri as well, who, again, two characters that have always had the comedy element. They're like the brothers of it. They're the nerds that got bullied the most. They're the IT ones. We get their story arc ending where they make it up. They end up going to the same universities as well. There's a lot of school stuff to talk about, and I'm going to kind of do that. We've got Tori as well, who we need to speak about. She, of course, has it going on with Robbie. They get a great little ending. They both end up becoming models for karate. Again, I'm fine with that. Don't mind that. A lot of the character arcs for me worked, but I just keep going back to Johnny Lawrence's. Is that, again, for me, the show started and ended with him. And I think he's the best character in the show. And it didn't forget that. Another double act I'm going to talk about, who I loved, Terry Silver and Kreese. Now, Martin Kove is obviously like the face of Cobra Kai. He always has been. I mentioned about his great scene with William Zabka in this, the sort of father-son, going in for the hug. It's a pretty emotional moment. It's a very good moment, and I'm glad we got to see Kreese actually show a bit of humanity, because he's always been this sort of, not a John Wick type, but it's like Kreese gets out of danger. This is how he does it. And I think his character arc reached the right end, kind of in line with Terry Silver. Again, it's the whole I'm dying, I've got a few minutes to live. Great, easy way to get the story going. Terry Silver, a fight to the death on a yacht that gets blown up by a cigarette from Martin Kove. I can live with that. It's Cobra Kai, it's outrageous. It wasn't just the first explosion, it was the second one that wiped them all out. And then obviously the pair of them are sort of forgotten or not spoken about. Will anybody ever find their bodies on there? I guess we'll never know. Maybe there'll be a newspaper or something in the Karate Kid film, but I liked how both their characters went out. They knew each other from a young age. They were in the story of the warriors and their background of one another. The fact that this was then able to go out together, I think, worked. I don't think they overstayed their welcome. I think they just had the right amount of time. And the fact they went at the end of the penultimate episode rather than the last episode, I think was good, because you want the last episode to be, here's the end of the story, and here's our lovely little epilogue of what everybody's going to be up to. And something I haven't even spoke about yet, I mean, the fact that we even get a wedding in this series, we get the birth of Johnny Lawrence's daughter, and it's some great scenes, and it's very funny at times, as it has been. So it's a bit we're doing a spoiler discussion, not live, because I don't really know what other people get to think, but that's the sort of core characters I wanted to talk about. And I guess now I can talk about this as a whole, as a season. Do I think season 6 is the best season? No. But where I'm sort of going with it is that part 3 was so much better dramatically, emotionally. I spoke about the action side of things as well. It felt threatening in terms of characters and stories as well. There was so much going for it. I just think Netflix splitting in 3 did not help the show at all. Did anyone really get to that cliffhanger last time? I think I've got no idea what's going to happen in 2 months' time. I don't think they did. I think everyone knew, yeah, there's probably going to be some more karate and someone died. But the fact we get the whole Jedi funeral and we get the grandfather being killed, we get even Chosen gets a lovely little ending to his character arc too. There's some really good stuff that the show works with. And I think overall, season 6 works as a final season. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to binge season 1 to 6 again. In the immediate future, no. Probably I will do one day. I'd like to do... If Karate Kid is definitively going to be the final film, or if it's going to be another passing of the torch for the future, I don't know. I'd be so curious to just definitively do all of them. It'd be really interesting for me to do that, especially with the 6 seasons together. And I think collectively, as a binge format, the show's going to work so well. As I said, I loved binging the early seasons, and maybe the show worked better because we weren't waiting for seasons. And in the case of season 6, we were waiting for 3 parts within that one season. So it's a tricky one to talk about. But overall, I think the show landed at the right place. It didn't overstay its welcome if you're watching it collectively. I think if you've waited for these 3 parts, you might have different thoughts. I've told so many people that I know that watch the show, just wait till the end of season 6. Wait for them all to come out to binge them. I do think that's the best way of doing it. You don't gain anything by waiting in that gap. It's very much a conversation on Netflix and personal preference of watching things. I like week to week. I like binging. There's pros and cons for both sides of those things, but I'll always draw the line at what's the outrageous Amazon one. We give you 3 episodes and then it's one a week. Or the... it's just... I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the past. I'm not a part of splitting. Just pick your target and stick with it and have it done. But 3 parts across 9 months, it's a no from me. There's not enough episodes to get something out of binging. It's 5 episodes a time. It's like 2.5 hours. It's like watching a film every sort of 4 months. I don't think that worked for the show. It doesn't take anything away from, I guess, the quality of the series overall, and the fact it does nail a season 6. The fact that it does have great endings for so many characters. I can't sit there and saying this character was robbed of a great ending or a happy ending. As a show like this should do, it was very much happy endings for people that needed to have them. And if there were minor characters, let's say like Kenny, for example, nothing to do in part 3, but even when that moment when the dojo comes out at the end ready for the fight, or ready for the final battle, it's the fact that everyone did turn up that needed to be there. And we even got some name drops. I forgot the character's name who was like Sam's best friend in the early seasons, but she got name dropped at least. But yeah, it's a nice final season, and I think it's a bit rewarding. I think if you've gone through all 6 seasons, it's a rewarding end to the show, and that's the best thing I can really say about it. Now, where do I rank this show amongst other shows? There's nothing like it. There never probably will be something like it. To get a spin-off series decades after the films come out, and then it being so popular that a new film is going to get made as it ends, I've not seen that before. And I think what the show did so well as a whole was to bring in those older actors that, let's say Chosen, for example, a character from Karate Kid Part 2, who ends up becoming a recurring character in season 5 and 6. Amazing. Why can't I have this moment? Terry Silver, you were an amazing villain in Karate Kid 3. No matter how much people hate you, you're an amazing villain. Let's get you back for a couple of seasons. Martin Cove became the face of the show in a way. And you got William Zabka, you got Ralph Macchio. There's so many great actors that got to return to these moments. Even actors we've lost across the filming these 6 seasons. There's been a lot of obviously passing in real life too, but I think the show's been absolutely perfect. I'm not going to call it like a nostalgia fest. It is nostalgic at times, of course, I understand that, but I feel like this show sometimes did it within good reason. I do draw the line at AI face deep, whatever they call it, deep facing the Miyagi. I'm sorry, I don't excuse that. I loved them putting the flashbacks of him. They were always great, and as I mentioned, like the choreography in this final season, in these last episodes, when we got certainly the Miguel moment, we got almost his first ever first season training with John Lawrence, and that's how he ended up winning the tournament, because he went to his route of karate rather than just trying to win. Things like that worked so much better, and it's absolutely great, right? And credit to everybody involved. Now, I know the finale was directed by Josh Held, John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossenberg. Of course, the showrunners always direct the finale. That's just TV tradition. And I think it's a great finale for them all to have gone out on. It's absolutely been perfect for the show. It's been a great show. And it's kind of sad to see it go. As I said, it's been a fundamental part of this channel for the last couple of years. But that being said, that probably is going to run over. I don't have too much more to add. And I'm going to hand over to people at home in the comments. Yes, this isn't live, but if you've got a comment, you want to drop it, I'll have a read of those. I'll reply to those. It's spoilers. You're welcome to put your thoughts on. If you think I've missed anything major, I probably have. As I said, season 6 reflectively has been much better than those parts individually, but part 3 really raised it for me. It's something I will be recommending for other people, and the great thing is I can recommend this as a show now. 6 seasons. Go watch the first 3 Karate Kid films and then go watch the 6 seasons. I guess we all now know we don't need to do Karate Kid 4. But you can watch the Karate Kid trilogy, then watch Cobra Kai as a show, then watch Karate Kid Legends, and that's one hell of a franchise, isn't it? Oh, and the Rocky training montages, I absolutely loved it. But that is going to do it for this review today. So thank you all so much for watching. For Cobra Kai fans that have stayed with us throughout all these years, thank you so much for doing so. I hope you've enjoyed this finale as well. If you're a fan of not just TV as well, you're a fan of Cobra Kai, as I said, we'll have a review out for the Karate Kid film when it comes out. We'll have a lot more things happening on the channel. Now, by the time this video goes up, I will actually have a review already out for Captain America Brave New World. We'll have a spoiler discussion out on the weekend as well. That's going to be me and Neil on that one. We'll be doing a lot more things. It's award season. We've got a BAFTA video going to happen on Sunday after the ceremony. We've got the Oscars in 2 weeks' time after that. It's a very busy time, so it's nice to get something like Cobra Kai. It's nice to take a break from all these Oscar films. It's been very heavy watching some of these films too. So that's going to round it out for me today. As I said, if you want to find out more videos, hit us on social medias. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky. Link in the description will pop you through to all of those, alongside a link to our Cobra Kai reviews. That's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.